Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friday Fast 15 podcast, where we have conversations with subject matter experts about big topics in under 15 minutes. Today, I have with me Thomas Hunt, Practice Director of Customer Service Management here at Crossfuze. Hi, Thomas. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Kim. Thanks for having me.
We're talking about customer service and customer service management in education today. So I'm going to start us off with just a background question. Customer service management has evolved quite a bit. So tell us a little bit about what people mean when they say customer service in terms of technology.
Yeah, it's a pretty big question. I think it really narrows down to two things. The first thing would be, how do we become more proactive opposed to reactive? Meaning,
Sure.
let's not wait on our customers to actually reach out to us. Let's just tell them they have a problem and fix it before that, right?
Sure.
And then, excuse me, the second piece would be just improving the customer experience in general. So when you look at, a customer and their interaction with any sort of service organization in which they consume a product or a service, generally, there's an experience that occurs. And today, right, it may be limited to just kind of transactional interactions. Hey, I have a problem. Okay, how can I help you? Okay, I fixed it. Great. Now let's go on our ways. But more so than not, this is a journey, right? It could be from recruiting them to use that product or service, and their interaction after they actually purchase that product or service, and then ultimately, supporting them as they consume that product or service. So, I think that's kind of the two big factors when I think about technology and CSM. That's how technology, helps them. And if you think about the customer experience in general, right, there was a report by New Voice Media. And there's almost $75 billion lost by U.S. businesses each year due to poor customer experiences, right? How many times have you had an interaction with a product or service that you consume and you're like, yep, I'm not using them anymore. I'm going to go get something else, right? That's dollars in revenues lost by the organizations.
Yeah, exactly. And that's key. That's a key thing. That's where our platform ServiceNow comes in. So can you tell us a little bit about how ServiceNow is helping organizations create these seamless customer experiences?
Yeah, the first thing, and obviously this has been said for years, is it connects siloed systems, right? You look at any
Right.
organization, that involves a front, middle, or back office. And what I mean by that is you may have someone in customer support, which is customer facing. You may have product SMEs that aren't customer facing, but they're required in order to help resolve that particular issue. And then you have your administrative functions, right? Like finance, payroll, et cetera.
Sure.
ServiceNow, it isn't a replacement of any of those applications, right? SAP or Oracle or Salesforce or, any of those large systems that we hear of today. What it really is, it's the glue that holds them together, right? So it connects all those siloed systems. And then they add a personalized mobile self-service experience, right? So
Right.
a lot of times in customer support organizations, right, you hear the term thrown around, meet the customer where they want to be met. ServiceNow really does do that. You want to email us? Email us. You want to call us? Call us. You want to go to our website? Do that too, right? We'll meet you wherever you want to talk to us. And from a seamless standpoint, right, it doesn't really get more seamless than me sitting on my couch watching Game of Thrones and submitting an issue to a
Sure.
financial institution. So yeah, I mean that's pretty seamless, right? And when you can
Mhm.
have those interactions without any sort of um, you know uh, movement in your day-to-day life at all.
Right. You can multitask without really even thinking about it.
That's right.
Um, and you've got a variety of customers who maybe interact a variety of ways, and that's what ServiceNow allows companies to do is interact with those customers in that variety of ways, whatever they want to do. So it's pretty amazing. And of course, we're talking about customer service in education, and again, educational institutions have a variety of customers.
Yeah.
Um, so, what particular pain points are these colleges, universities, and large school districts facing today?
Yeah, I think really a shift towards digital engagement. right, is probably the biggest. If you think about, institutions, higher education, education in general, you think of, my mind immediately goes to a chalkboard, right?
Mhm.
That's how
Yep.
far away or removed from digital engagements that education might be. So I think shifting towards more digital environments like ServiceNow, or if you just think about the pandemic, right, and all these students that had to take classes from their house, right, and when everyone was in lockdown, it doesn't really get more digital than that, right? So universities had to take on this very large task of saying, okay, how are we going to provide all these different services as a university, right, or as an institution to our students. And to follow up on that, right, another pain point would be the variety of customers that they serve. It's not just students, right? It's
Right.
parents, it's faculty, it's alumni in many cases, right? So giving those customers, and we'll just kind of put all those different customers in a bucket. That's a pretty big pain point, right? How do we shift from pen and paper, from someone walking into our administration office and providing that self-service, or providing a service in a digital way that's going to make us more efficient?
Yeah. And that's really key because today's students are going to be inventing the next technology,
Yeah.
and they're tech native. So they expect it. It's not like it's new to them.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a really good point, because if you think about kind of consumerizing the education experience, right? You think about all
right.
the engagements that a student has outside of the university, right? Why shouldn't it be the same inside the university that it is with, Amazon and online shopping and Twitter, right?
Right.
You can provide those same sort of experiences with ServiceNow.
Yeah, because they absolutely expect it. So let's talk about probably the one thing that is top of mind for everyone in higher education right now, and that is returning to campus post COVID. How can technology platforms like ServiceNow really help facilitate this return to campus?
Yeah, that's a really good question, especially since it seems like we're on our way out of COVID, right? So universities are saying, okay, well, we tackled the big problem of teaching students from home and providing services from home, but how do we get on these large campuses, right? How do we get 40,000 students back into campus and make sure that everyone is safe, right? ServiceNow, they came out with a number of COVID-related applications. The first one of those is a health screening app, right? And they have one of those, and it really prepares your students, faculty, and staff to return back to campus. And then once they're actually on campus, right, they have additional applications, right? So they have a workplace safety application that's going to allow you to, make sure your buildings and sites have been cleaned, right? When was the last time that this particular, site was disinfected, or this building on campus was disinfected? And then to take it even a step further, the inevitable will be that, someone might have COVID, right? But how do you, number one, isolate that person, and then identify affected people and mitigate additional exposure risk? And
Sure.
ServiceNow has an app for that, right? Which is their
Right.
contract tracing app. And you can integrate those applications into your entire customer service workflow, especially within an institution. So if you think about, maybe a parent now coming back from, or at least moving out of COVID, but traveling from one state to another to go visit their son or daughter on a campus, right? How are you
Mhm.
going to track that parent is on campus and where they've been, because 2 weeks later they say, "Oops, I had COVID," right? You can
Sure.
track that with COVID or with ServiceNow now.
That's absolutely amazing to think about that. That's
Yeah, it's
wow.
it's it's pretty great.
Yeah, that's super cool. And we've actually at Crossfuze already worked with a couple of institutions implementing ServiceNow. Do you want to tell a little bit about those customer stories?
Yeah, I'd say one of my favorites is Gallaudet University. If you're not familiar with Gallaudet University, they are the oldest university for the deaf and hard hearing in the U.S. So they were established in the late 19th century, and they have really adopted ServiceNow in not just a a process efficient way, but from an accessibility standpoint, right, to their students and their faculty, which primarily are deaf. So if you look at Gallaudet and what they've done with customer service, they've actually utilized it in two ways, right? And the first is they've created this portal experience that is simply fantastic, right? And to kind of break it down, what they've done is, depending upon who you are, right? Maybe you're a student, maybe you're part of the faculty, maybe you're a parent, maybe you're alumni. Depending upon how you actually log into our portal or when you log into our portal, we're going to automatically present the services to you that you require, right? So for example, a student may need a password reset, but a parent would never need a password reset. So we should never expose that sort of request to that parent. A parent is only going to be concerned about billing and payments, or what is your post-COVID implementation plan? How do I know my child is going to be safe there? So they're only presenting those knowledge articles, those catalog items and requests, depending upon who you actually are when you hit their ServiceNow portal. So
Sure.
That's pretty fantastic, and they're exposing it to everyone, right? It's not just students, right? Anyone in the world essentially could hit this ServiceNow portal, and Gallaudet would be able to provide them with enrollment information, right? Or if you are a student, fix the Wi-Fi in your dorm room, right? It's pretty great.
Amazing. That's all just in one little app. Well, it seems little to us, but
Yeah, and they've also used some of the more robust features of ServiceNow in really effective ways. So if you think about something like Virtual Agent, right, which is a native chatbot, not only does it help kind of act as that tier 0 for their administrative teams, right? It's also an accessibility feature, right? No one has to call, right? If you remember, right, this is an all deaf university or primarily deaf university, so they're actually able to leverage Virtual Agent as an accessibility option, right? So it's pretty awesome what ServiceNow is able to do there. And then, we have Gallaudet, who's also using this next feature, as well as a very large school district in Texas. But from a field service standpoint, and another big piece of higher education and universities, or any sort of organization that has, a massive landscape or, territory that they have to support, is field services, and specifically in higher education, it's facilities and maintenance, right? So you actually have buildings and campuses that, a sink could be clogged, for example, or the air conditioning could go out. And there's an entire team of technicians that, they're not teaching students, they're not, doing those types of things. What they're doing is they're actually keeping the place up and running, right? They're keeping the lights on, and ServiceNow is able to support, those students and anyone who visits campus in that way, also leveraging ServiceNow as well.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is, and I know we talked about this, is they can do this with these workers who don't necessarily have an office or a desk. So, they're running around doing their day, they get a ping on their phone and, oh, sink is clogged over in this dormitory. Let's go over there.
Yeah, we kind of walk through a use case, right? You could be, say you're a student, for example, and you raise your hand and you're like, teacher, can I go to the bathroom, please? You go to the bathroom, you realize that one of the sink is clogged and it's running over with water. You go back and you tell your teacher, right? Naturally, your teacher has the ability to log on to a portal, submit a request for one of those field service technicians. One of those field service technicians, which are not sitting at a desk, right? Generally, they're riding around. They're in their trucks. They have spare parts, and they're certified tradesmen and women. They get that notification. They say, "Oh, I need to go to building B, room 4, and fix that." And ServiceNow is going to track the inventory that's required to resolve that. They're going to track and update the customer to say, "Hey, I got it fixed." They can actually see how far away they are. I'm going to be able to get to this in 2 hours. So here's what you need to do beforehand. I mean, it's really, really robust what ServiceNow is doing from a field service standpoint.
Amazing. So we've touched on what it can do. We've touched on what it's doing in education now. What do you see on the horizon for education customer service management with ServiceNow?
Yeah, that's another really good question. I really think it's going to be the emphasis on the student experience, but maybe not in the ways that we discussed during this Fast 15, but more around administrative functions. So if you think about administrative functions, historically, right, that means things that aren't in classroom. That could be student services, housing, financial aid. Generally, they've been separated from that standard student journey, right? It's bringing them into ServiceNow to operate alongside, their other departments that are also using ServiceNow. And I think it's really going to be seen as a key element of the student experience, right? If I look back at my college experience, every semester you'd enroll for a new class, right? Or new classes. And what you do is you'd go online, you enroll for your new classes, and, everything was nice and dandy. But what I had to do, right, for any sort of financial aid, or maybe I had a question, is I had to walk down to the administrative office, right? And they would check me in there, right? So it was a completely disconnected experience there. I think, the trend is going to be, you're going to see those administrative functions kind of unite with, the other digital experiences that are being provided on campus, and really bring them together.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely incredible. And it makes me think back to my college experience as well, when I had to register on a piece of paper. So
Yeah.
different world today.
Yeah, of course. The second piece I think that might be on the horizon is digital agility, right? So, and this goes back to the experience, I think, too. So, generally, universities need to see and measure every touch point with a student, right? And a lot of times our brains go directly to, okay, this student is enrolled. How do I support them while they're here? But that's not the experience, right? That's one of those transactional, things that I mentioned earlier. The experience is, recruitment to commencement, right? How can I provide support to this prospective student all the way up to graduation and post-graduation, right? Mm-hmm. Where, they went from a 17, 18-year-old high school student to now a 22, 23-year-old graduate, and now they want to be a donor or alumni. You have to, that's a lot of touch points in that, 4, 6, 8-year period, however long that student is actually, enrolled on campus, or at least involved with the university. And that's a lot of different interactions with a lot of different departments and a lot of different people. And I think being able to be agile, increase that agility is to have communication and collaboration across the university.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with me, Thomas. This has been very exciting. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about this topic, you can reach out to us at letstalk@crossfuze.com, or visit our website at crossfuze.com. And if you'd like to learn about any of our other topics, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you can see this video on YouTube. Thank you.
Awesome.